The shelter worker pulled me aside before I even walked in. "Just so you know," she said, lowering her voice, "there's a white cat in the back, cage 14. He's been here 7 months. Bites, scratches, won't let anyone touch him." She paused. "We're running out of options." I almost turned around right then, but something stopped me. I don't know what it was, maybe curiosity, maybe stubbornness. I told her I wanted to see him anyway, and that decision changed everything. His name on the tag said Ghost. I remember thinking, of course they named him Ghost, because that's exactly what he was trying to do, disappear. The second I stepped near cage 14, he pressed himself into the back corner, ears flat, eyes locked on me like I was a threat. He was completely white, not the warm cream white of a well-fed house cat. This was the sharp, almost painful white of something that had been through too much. His fur was matted near his shoulders. One of his ears had a small notch, from a fight probably, or maybe from a life lived too hard before the shelter walls closed around him. The card on his cage listed him as a behavioral case, 7 months old. 7 months of volunteers reaching in, getting scratched, giving up. 7 months of being the cat nobody wanted to hold twice. I stood there and I just looked at him. "Hey, Ghost," I said quietly. "I see you." He hissed. I should have walked away. Every logical part of my brain was telling me to. There were other cats in that shelter. Sweet ones, friendly ones, cats that would crawl into your lap before you even sat down. But I stayed at cage 14 for another 10 minutes, just standing there, not reaching in, not trying to force anything, just being present. If you're new here and stories like this are your thing, hit that subscribe button. I share these every week. Now back to Ghost. And somewhere in those 10 minutes, something shifted in me. I wasn't going to leave this cat behind. I went home without him that day. My husband, Mark, could tell something was off at dinner. I kept pulling up the shelter's website on my phone, staring at Ghost's profile photo, that one blurry picture where he looked more like a smudge of white paint than a living creature. "You found one, didn't you?" Mark said. It wasn't a question. "He's not adoptable, at least that's what they basically said." Mark put his fork down. "Show me." I turned the phone toward him. He stared at the screen for a long moment. Then he said the thing I already knew he was going to say. "Let's go meet him." The shelter led us into the back room, a small space where they sometimes let potential adopters spend time with cats away from the cage. Ghost was placed on a table. He immediately moved to the farthest corner, crouched low, tail wrapped tight around himself. Mark didn't reach for him. He just sat down in the chair nearby, rested his arms on his knees, and waited. 5 minutes passed. Ghost watched him. 10 minutes, Ghost's tail loosened, just slightly. And then, and I still can't fully explain this, Ghost took one step forward. Just one, but it was the first step he'd taken toward anyone in 7 months. Mark didn't move. He let Ghost set the pace. Another minute, another step. Then Ghost was close enough that Mark could have reached for, but he didn't. He just stayed still, breathing slowly like he had all the time in the world. Ghost sniffed his hand. I was standing in the doorway and I felt my throat tighten. Because I've seen a lot of shelter visits. I've seen cats warm up gradually over weeks. I've seen cats that never warm up at all. But I have never seen a behavioral case, a cat that bit the last 3 volunteers, sniff someone's hand 12 minutes after meeting them. The shelter worker behind me whispered, "I've never seen him do that before." Mark still didn't move. He just let his hand rest there, open, palm up. And Ghost, this cat that had spent 7 months making himself impossible to love, pressed the top of his head against Mark's fingers, just for a second, then pulled back, like he wasn't sure he was allowed to want that. If you've ever felt like you were the difficult one that nobody wanted to give a chance to, you already know exactly how Ghost felt in that room. We adopted him that afternoon. The drive home was silent. Ghost was in the carrier between my feet, and he didn't make a sound. No crying, no scratching at the door, just stillness, like he was processing something. The first week was not easy. I want to be honest about that. He hid under the bed for 3 days straight. He knocked over his water bowl twice. He climbed into the Christmas tree at 2 a.m. Yes, that actually happened, and yes, that is a real photo. And when I came downstairs half asleep to find a pair of glowing eyes staring at me from inside the branches, I genuinely didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I laughed, barely. But I also remember sitting on the kitchen floor at 3 a.m., back against the cabinets, waiting to see if he'd come out from behind the refrigerator. And he did. He didn't come close, just sat about 4 feet away and looked at me, like he was trying to figure out if I was safe. I talked to him for 20 minutes about nothing. The weather, what I'd had for dinner, whether I thought he'd like the new toy I'd bought him. He just sat there, listening. And somehow, that felt like progress. But then, slowly, Ghost started becoming someone else. Or maybe he started becoming himself. He discovered the cat tree in the living room about 2 weeks in. The first time he climbed to the top, he sat up there for an hour just watching the room below him, like a tiny white king surveying his kingdom. Mark looked up at him and said, he just needed to feel like he was in control of something. I think that's it, exactly. Ghost wasn't mean. Ghost was scared. There's a difference, and it's one that most people at that shelter, as kind as they were, didn't have the time to figure out. By month 2, he was sleeping at the foot of our bed. By month 3, he was climbing onto Mark's chest in the morning, pressing his nose against Mark's chin, purring like a small engine that had finally learned to run. The cat who bit everyone, purring. Ghost still has his moments. He's not a lap cat. He probably never will be. He still watches strangers with those careful, guarded eyes. But with us, he's soft. He's funny. He's ours. And I keep thinking about what the shelter workers said that first day. We're running out of options. 7 words that almost meant Ghost never got a chance. If this story hit you somewhere deep, you probably know someone like Ghost, human or animal, someone who just needed one person to sit down, stay still, and wait. So here's my question for you. Have you ever given a chance to someone or something that everyone else had already given up on? What happened? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one.